Ordinance?
Here.
Mayor Sharrock.
Here, Councilman Orchakowski on the phone.
Oh, Councilor Orchakowski.
Here. All right, please rise for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call up Carissa Barkas to speak on trap, neuter, and release.
I have several points that I want to bring up tonight. Recently in my neighborhood, and I've come to realize it's not just my neighborhood, on my street last week I caught 6 kittens and 3 adult cats. All of the kittens I did take to a rescue that works with feral kittens. They will be able to be worked with and homed. The mom, I did go get her fixed. Unfortunately, she did pass after surgery, and the males, working with them, I will get them fixed as well. There is one place that right now is doing the walk-in drop-off. So it's called Frankie's Friends, and it's in New Kensington. And anytime that you catch an animal, you literally just take the crate in the morning, 9 a.m. is drop-off, and then they call you when you're done. There's a paper you fill out. It's complete non-contact. You fill out the paper that's on it. They clip their ear so that anytime you see a cat running around with a stray or a feral, if its ear's clipped, it has already been fixed. Ideally, it would be nice if they could come inside. It's getting cold. The mom had passed away, the female that I caught, because she had pneumonia and she had some scar tissue on her lungs. That's what's going to happen to all these cats, and we're going to find them in our streets. And I mean, that's traumatizing for me. That's certainly going to be traumatizing for children. So I wanted to talk to the city since I've done it, and I was very transparent on Facebook about everything going on. I have multiple people on different streets now reaching out to me. But I cannot do it myself. I cannot do every street in Monessen. It is a financial burden. It's also very time consuming. So I'm coming to the city today begging that you will take it into your hands and help. It's a city issue, not just a Somerset Street, Maple Street. It is citywide, and one cat easily turns into 100 in a year, and I think that we're even surpassed that. We're beyond that. There's complaints about them using a baseball field as a litter box. I mean, this isn't the cat's fault, this is the human's fault. We need to do what we can to save them, to help them. Winter's coming. We could trap them, release them. I brought a trap to show you guys how to use it. I also want to bring up that it is illegal to poison them and to shoot them and do anything else inhumane to them. Feeding them it's wonderful, and if you can, absolutely, like I beg the citizens, please feed them. If you can provide warmth for them. I have a heated cat house on my porch now. That is a wonderful thing to have. I'm trying to work with them, catch them out, get them into rescues, but at least that gives them a fighting chance. But we can't just keep feeding them and not fix the actual issue at hand. They have to be trapped. They have to be neutered and spayed. Through Frankie's Friends and most of the places, it is $55 for a female and $36 for a male. That is a flea treatment, an antibiotic shot, the rabies shot, and obviously the surgery. So I see that you do have an ordinance here, and I did want to just kind of bring up some things for the city, for the residents of Madison. I want to remind them that it is illegal to have your animals outside when it is 32 degrees or 91. So at that point, the animals can be taken and you can be arrested and fined. I would really like to see that enforced. For some reason, people have this negative connotation about shelters, and if you've never been to a shelter, please do go to one. I volunteer at shelters and at rescues. They're not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, there's plenty of animals in the city that would have a better life in a rescue. They have constant food and water, treats, lots of people playing with them, loving on them, toys, blankets, a bed. It's better than being kept outside in a 5x5 cage. So I just wanted to kind of bring up that. I also wanted to talk to the city about a chip reader. So the Washington County, Matone, he used seizure money to buy chip readers for everywhere. in his district, and I was kind of hoping that we could do something similar. I was going to buy them myself because I have worked with police in trying to like catch dogs. There's been several dogs I caught myself and was able to return them home. But if I had a chip reader, it would just be a lot easier. They are a couple $100, so for me to take that on myself, but it would be really nice if the police at least had one. Unfortunately, animals do get out, so if we had a chip reader, the chances are just a lot better for that animal to get back home immediately. Charleroi currently has a program, and I was unable to get the details of it, but they are enacting on a trap, neuter, release program. Supposedly they're releasing the cats somewhere else. I advise against that. If they can be rehomed and worked with, that's fine, but these feral cats, they're not very nice. Even the kittens, I have scratches and bites all over my hands just from the ones that I worked with last week. They're not very nice. It is not very easy. They do not understand that humans are helping them. They have had no positive human interaction. So they probably need release, but if they can be worked with, sometimes feral cats will turn over, but there are rescues that will take them. There are humane societies that will take them. I went with At Last Animal Rescue. They're out of Greensburg, and they specifically work with feral cats. So hopefully we can find out the details of what Charleroi is doing. I think they put off a ticket to kind of raise the funds for it, but if we can do something just so that the city can help and do something about the cat issue that we have before it's too cold. I also wanted to bring up Hoffman. I would really like the city to look into other places and not renew the contract with Hoffman's. They are too far away, and they do not respond in a timely manner. They also do not answer the phone 24/7. So I know the ordinance, I see here you're rereading it, so I look forward to listening in on that. But the ordinance as it wasn't very fair and humane in support of the animals. So if they catch your animal, but they're not answering the phone, and it's a Friday, it's Monday, and you're getting fined for each one of those days. And okay, that happens one time, that's one thing. But if the animal gets put down simply because they weren't responding, they weren't answering the phone, that's an issue. If we have an animal running at large and it's actually dangerous because it's scared, and oftentimes the animal is scared, and that is why it is dangerous, for them to come, and I believe it's Delmont, all the way from Delmont, and a lot of times they're not, because again, I mean, call them. I encourage you, seriously, call them. They won't answer the phone. Leave a message. It'll take possibly a day before them to even call you back. And if you're inquiring about an animal, it's just as bad. So I'd really like to look into some other, and I will gladly research it and provide you with other options, but something else, I'd really like to not renew that contract with Hoffman's. I want other humane options. Putting them down because they were running at large, I don't find that humane. I don't support it. I think that many residents will stand behind me. I know there's people in the city that animals were put down, so I'd like to do that. Obviously, animals running at large, there needs to be fines. Occasionally a dog gets out, and that's fine. And when I say animals, I don't even just mean dogs. So if we're doing a trap, neuter, release program, and there's people with outdoor cats that they irresponsibly are letting their cats live outside, and they didn't take the responsibility to spay or neuter their animal, I think that a fine should be enacted. We're trying to help the problem. We need residents to support us. We need residents to help. Absolutely, please continue to feed them, but also please try to catch them. And if a resident catches them and they can't get them neutered or spayed, they can't afford it, or they can't take them, I mean, reach out. I would gladly take them rather than them be released or something inhumane happen to them. And then I also just want to, while I'm on the topic, the importance of microchips. If that's going to be our way, we really need to get it out there. I mean, you can microchip your animal for $19, a pet supplies plus a governance. There are clinics that do it for $10. There's rabies clinics, there's vaccine clinics. Even if you think that your animal is just an indoor cat or an indoor dog, there are other animals coming into your yard. There are other places that you're stepping, and you're bringing those things into your house without even realizing it. It is so very important, and it is illegal to not have a rabies vaccine on any animal. So it's just really important that citizens just make sure they're taking care of their animals, be responsible. Please provide vaccines. Microchips. I mean, everyone has to help us. One street can't solve the all of Monessen problem, and even if 4 streets enact on it, I mean, this has to be a citywide effort. Otherwise, the cats are just going to move into other colonies. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone?
Teresa?
Yes.
This is Councilman Wozzachowski. If you have a second after the meeting, if you have a moment, can you see either Mr. Harhai or Lois for them to give my information for you to contact me? My wife and I would like to help get involved in some other way or whatever way we possibly can.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else on council have anything to add or any comments, questions for Teresa?
I have a question. How many people are involved with you, to get it done? Because we've tried to work with this once before, and the people talked a lot. But when you started giving them the cats, they disappeared.
Right. So, I'm going to be honest with you. I have zero experience with cats.
You put your
I have zero experience with cats prior to this. So I am in school for vet tech, but I have very little experience, especially with feral cats. None at all. My neighbors were always feeding them. I was not. I have a dog who doesn't like other animals all the time. He's selective. So I never wanted them on my porch for their safety. So I've never fed them. But all the neighbors kept feeding them, and I did get a shelter that I volunteered with to come and get a litter, and it was like a year ago, but we've had litters since. So now there are more cats living on my street than humans at this point. Was. So it was just the neighbors were kind of all complaining and talking about it. So I got a trap from a shelter, and I started, and they will tell you to starve the animal first. I do not recommend that. There are enough people feeding cats around that all that's going to happen if you don't put out food is they're going to go somewhere else for it. So I don't recommend that. What I recommend is you put something better in the trap than what you have on the porch. I leave dry food out all the time. I put KFC chicken in the trap. I caught 3 cats one night with the same KFC drumstick. So, and that's kind of how I'm working with the ferals too. Sure, they can come eat Meow Mix all day long on my porch, but they have to come to me. They have to get close to me to get KFC. And I try to hand feed it and see how close I can get to them so they trust me, so that I could try and lure them into the house during winter and into the trap to get them fixed. It was just me and one of my neighbors that were doing this. She drove with me to New Kent to drop them off. I had to go pick them up. It is one person, but if the city were to contact Frankie's friends or even other places, maybe they would have some sort of agreement where only one person has to drive down to drop off all the cats and pick them up. And that would be great, but yeah, it was just me, and then I did have a couple friends come over and help me to socialize the cats and work with them before we realized that it was way out of anything we were capable of, and we surrendered them to a rescue. But yeah, Kristen Cucciolone, she sent me boxes of donations, food, litter, so many things, but it literally probably was just 4 of us. So yeah, I don't know what support, but
It's a tough job.
1 person per street is all we need. We need to say 1 person is going to put the trap on their porch. 1 person is going to have the food on their porch. Everybody else stop. We need the cats to go to this 1 porch. And hopefully we can find 1 person per street, or even for the bigger streets, you may need a few, but we can't have every house with food because they're not going near that trap then. And you have to know to cover it. So, am I allowed to use that table?
Yeah.
So, and this is an old rusty trap, and it works just fine.
It's too small to trap one of those,
So, it is a lot of work. I set my alarm. I woke up every 2 hours throughout the night to check it because I needed to catch kittens. I had baby kittens that I needed to catch, and one night I caught a possum. I need that possum loose. I need the kittens. So, and then I did catch an adult cat one night, and I had to take it in and put it somewhere else because I only have 1 trap. I needed my trap. I needed to catch the kittens. It is a lot of work, but yeah, they'll go in it. But it's rusty, and it works just fine. You literally just, on that side, you just push this up, lift it, and then there's this. Once you flip this in there, it lifts this little pegboard. So then the food you want to put in on this end, and I have these because you need reinforcements. If you have zip ties, I didn't. I found these in my house. Some of the adult feral cats, like they will try to get out, and for my own safety, I like to try their things, but I literally just tied a drumstick right here. Or I would put Meow Mix right down there, and then this closes, and then I just did that, and that's it. And I put it outside, I put a blanket over it, I had food in this side, I had some toys all around it, catnip. There is pheromone spray if like you're concerned, if someone's willing to, but like their biggest fear is like, once I catch this cat, it's gonna kill me. Yeah, it wants to scratch your eyes out, absolutely. It's called Feel Away, and there's also an off-brand called Sentry. It's Sentry brand, it's called Stop That, I think it's only $10. It's a pheromone spray, and once you spray them, a world of difference. And that's the only way I would recommend even touching them. Like throw a blanket over them if you're gonna take them out, but if it's just adults and you're gonna just trap them and take them to the thing, just you keep the blanket over it. Take it in your house. They can stay in here on your porch. Like it's fine for an animal to stay in here for 24 hours. It has food, especially if you put wet food in it. Wet food has water in it. So it's okay, they're not gonna be dehydrated. This is a humane trap, and this is humane for an animal to be in for 24 hours.
How many litters per year?
So on my street alone, I live on Somerset. We surrendered a litter last year to a shelter. They came, they got the whole litter of kittens, and I mean, they got them as soon as they started eating dry food. As soon as they're eating on their own, they can be taken away from their mother. There's a milk you can buy called, I think it's KMR, and it's like a mother's milk supplement, which again, they're feral cats. I mean, they're eating out of the garbage. It's not necessarily necessary. You're still giving them the best chance if you're trying. We had that litter, and then
A cat can have 3 litters per year?
I'm not even positive on the number, but I alone caught off of this same one mom, I'm like 99% sure it was the same one mom, I caught 4 different litters of hers. And she was only, whenever I picked her up, after they spayed her, she was passed, but I got her paperwork, and they had that she was 1 year old.
How many, do you have an idea, estimation of how many cats there are in Monessen based on your street and knowledge about it?
Probably thousands.
Yeah, this is not a small issue. As soon as I started catching these kittens and I was posting my efforts, I had 3 different people on different areas in Madison reach out to me, like help me. I had someone say, I'll pay you to come catch the cat like hanging around me, and I'm like, no, I'll tell you what to do, and you can borrow my trap, but I can't do every street. And then we had a softball team complaining that they're using the field as a litter box. Shawnee. I was just called to Maple yesterday for a feral cat that looked sick. I mean, this is...
How, the Humane Society how are they as far as treating cats? Because we got a lot of pushback years ago. I mean, we had 85 cats that we took down to, and they were upset about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand, because, I mean, you take him to the Humane Society, and why would you be upset? You know, we're not mistreating them.
Right. So I personally have never worked with the Humane Society of Westmoreland County. I worked with them Washington County on a dog issue. Never worked with Westmoreland, can't comment to it. I know with COVID, things are so different. A lot of people aren't, but what I did is I kid you not, I emailed probably 20 different rescues and told them this is the situation, I have this many kittens at least, still working on catching them, can you help me? And I did have one person reach back and say, hey, we work with feral kittens and we'd love to take them. Some of them are not, some of the cats we catch are not, they're too far feral. We will never be able to turn them over, they will never be nice. The thing with feral cats, and I think, honestly I think it's with most cats, even if they're not feral, they'll be very loving, like we'll be holding them and they're purring, and then a minute later, they smack us. They growl, they hiss, they spit, I mean, some of these feral cats, sure, they can end up being in people's homes. Some of them are going to need release. And the thing is, that's okay. If we're fixing them and we're releasing them and someone's putting blankets out, a heated cat house, they're going to be okay. Mine, I want to try to get them to like me at least enough that they'll walk past me into my house and into the basement They can stay away from me and my dog and stay in the basement, but at least in winter, if I can get them to come in occasionally at least, I would be happy with that. But I mean, there's a tomcat on my street. I know he's never gonna be nice. He's vicious. I don't think that he has a fighting chance. Right, but and if you take out, like, so it's a colony. So if you take every cat out of the colony, another colony will move in. So that's why it doesn't matter what I do on my street, because if the next street doesn't do something, their colony is gonna take over my street. And I mean, we're just gonna have more kittens because one of them cats are gonna impregnate another cat, and it's like, it has to be a citywide effort for it to even make a difference.
It's difficult as a city, and I, at one time when we were trying to do that, and take them to that, I had over 1,200 emails that were sent to me. 1,200. Because they said we were doing bad things with the cats, and we weren't. So the group out of Maryland or Virginia, one group was okay, the other group was mad as could be about it. So it's very difficult for a city, they look at you as being aggressive to remove these cats, even if you do everything by the book.
Right.
Because you're a government entity and you're coming down. And I just called one lady, and I still remember. I called her and I said, where do you live? And she said, in Pittsburgh. She would give me her address. And she says, why? And I said, well, I would like to bring some cats down to you. I don't want any cats. Why don't you send me the email?
Yeah.
So it's just like everything else. It's okay if it's over there. I'm going to talk about it, but it's over there. But as soon as you want to bring it here, they're opposing them.
Right.
So that's one of the problems that the city runs into when you try to make an ordinance or enforce an ordinance, anything like that. We all would like to have it cleared up.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about
In
that.
the most humane way possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking, humanely.
Right.
But I don't know how really to, at one time we had five women. I'm going to say 1,000 cats. And they would buy 50-pound bags and put them on the porch. And now you had cats coming, you had rats coming.
That's right.
You had every type. That's not
Right.
not healthy.
So the trap neuter release is probably going to be our best bet for that. So we're not going to get every cat into a shelter and rescue.
They even stole the traps, and the police had to go and get them and take them back. They were $80 a piece at the time, cost to the city. We had to pay for them. So therefore, after that, we had to back off because we couldn't get them to help us to help them to take care of the cats. So I'm just saying that it's.
And I'm sure.
If it's like 5 cats that we're catching and taking to Frankie's, then I could keep those 5 cats in carriers in my basement until they're okay to be released. I mean, some people, and I even asked Frankie's when I picked up the mom, I said, how long does she have to stay, like what's her recovery? And they said, well, that's up to you if you want to try to work with her. Some people take them home and release them. Ideally, you shouldn't. Let them recover post-surgery.
Do you worry about cat fever?
Or rabies.
Yeah. So I spent all day yesterday bleaching my basement because the cats were down there. I was paranoid about fleas. Some of the adult cats, I did give them flea pills, but I mean, these are feral cats. And then especially like if they're under 2 pounds, there's nothing you can even give them. So the kittens, there was nothing I could do, except you could bath them in Dawn. Well, if you're home by yourself, I never suggest that. I absolutely do not suggest you give a cat a bath if you have no experience. I wasn't willing to. I mean, it was hard enough to hold them. Yeah, so, I mean, we may just be catching, like, the kittens, absolutely, I think we can get kittens and rescues, no problem, because they're going to be able to be worked with and turned over. But a lot of these cats, I literally think we're going to be catching them, getting them spayed or neutered, and releasing them. And even at that point, that's okay, because then the problem is still cutting down. I mean, if we have 1,000 cats, and we do nothing, we're going to have 3,000 cats. if we have 1,000 cats and we do something and then it stops at, 1,000, I mean, there's still gonna be more, because we still have irresponsible residents in Monessen that are
That's
not
the
handling
issue.
their, yes,
That's
they're
the
not.
issue, yeah.
And, I mean, so you don't know, like, how did this happen to begin with? Obviously, someone had too many cats in their house and opened the door and let them out. I mean, so we can enact fines on that. I mean, this
And
is your pet, this is your responsibility.
All of the vacant properties don't help either, because you know, especially this time of year, you have these cats and other animals going into these vacant houses and buildings, trying to stay warm.
Right.
And then they multiply.
Yeah, and honestly, and then the cats, if we're just releasing them, that's good. So these male cats, they're gonna catch the mice. So
Right.
I don't mind about having a couple tomcats still on my street, I just want them to stop making babies. But if they wanna take care of all the abandoned and filth on the street, that's quite fine, keep catching those mice.
And I just want to add, if anyone does do what you're doing, don't go into a vacant building.
Yes.
Because we've had that happen before, so
You're not gonna catch them
Don't,
going
no.
in after them anyway.
We don't want
You
people
have to lure
falling
them
from
to you.
floors.
Every one that I caught while I was in the house or not even home. A lot of times, most of the adult ones I caught while I wasn't home. I came home and there was a cat in there. And I keep it covered. It's, I have a really soft, thick blanket, and I also have other blankets on my porch for them to cuddle up on. So it's hidden, and then you put the food in there, it looks comfy, it looks enticing, and there's a blanket over it so they don't see that it's this big scary trap that's gonna close on them. And like I said, this is humane, it does not hurt them. They go in there, they hit that flipboard, and it closes. I mean, you're gonna catch brackens, you're gonna catch possums. Possums let loose. Possums are actually a wonderful thing. They eat ticks. If you have feral cats, you probably have ticks. Let the possums eat. But yeah, I mean, I let it go. I literally opened it, I put it in the grass, opened it, and I ran back in the house. So.
Educating adults is the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
We have with dogs, same thing, a dog is kept in the yard, and you have excrement, that attracts rats. They eat it.
Yeah, and
So if you don't clean up after your dog, then you have other rodents coming.
right.
So the same thing with cats. So you don't clean them up, you have others coming along. So.
And that's actually what even had me
yeah.
fired up about this.
It's
Every
good.
time I pulled weeds, I also had to pick up cat food.
Mm.
And I did everything I read online. I get bags of coffee grounds from Starbucks and put all in my flower bed because it's supposed to deter them. And it's still. So I actually have a litter box on my porch. And once you catch the ferals and you put them in a cage with a litter box, I mean, they're immediate. They're so smart. They're smarter than, it's easier than potty training children and dogs. It's amazing. They literally just started going in the litter box, that day, the next day. So they weren't making messes in my house or anything, but I have a Great Dane dog crate, and that's where I kept all the kittens at, and then the adults had to go to carriers, but.
It's a challenge.
Thank you for what you're doing. Hopefully some other residents help as well, because like you said, just you doing it, you're not going to get anywhere.
No, if I take the whole colony out, and I intend to take the whole colony, I'm sure I'm going to release at least one of these males, but I mean, my goal is if any of them are nice enough or even half nice to where I'm okay, I can work with them without getting killed, I'm going to get them into a rescue. But, I mean, yeah, it's so that another colony will just move on my street.
Right.
I don't want to catch every cat in the nest. Thank you.
Tony,
Oh, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to open the floor for public comment on agenda items only.
Just Ron Moser, Crystal, 35 Colonial Road. Just a couple real quick things. Motions D and E for the city property.
Mm-hmm.
That is city property. This redevelopment authority cannot sell the property. You can transfer the property to the redevelopment authority, and that's what the motion should be. But you can't, you can't tell us what we're doing. We don't even have the property to sell. It's not ours.
Yeah, so the motion would probably be to approve transferring it to the redevelopment authority to sell to.
Right. Okay. Also, all these ordinances, I think they're great. so forth, but as an example, if I want to find out more about what the actual details of some of these motions, these ordinances are, where can I go to get them?
John has them, so, you can come down here, we can email them to you.
Okay, great. That's all I really have.
All right. So we have old business as advertised. So I would like to make a motion to approve a salary increase for the code enforcement officer from $40,000 to $57,000 annually. So the increase in salary is to meet the market value for code officers with proper education and certifications. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Yeah, we advertised to vote on those. Yeah. Did you second? Are any comments from council? Dawn, if you wanted to speak on this since it's your department.
Yeah, actually, I did. What happened here was we had the code enforcement officer come in and he was turning in his 2 weeks' notice. Headhunter had come after him and offered him the increase that we're going to give him. And I actually asked him at the time if we could meet the offer if he would stay. He said yes, he would. The reason this is so important to keep him is that for the first time in I don't know how many years, we actually have a code enforcement officer that meets all the requirements above and beyond what's actually required. For the last few years, we've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars just simply because we didn't have someone out there keeping an eye on things like street openings. You know, you can charge for each one of those. It was hit or miss. I can go up and look at Montfavor Drive where we have all these holes in the street that if we had been on top of the situation with a code enforcement officer, we would have covered it. We would have made a lot of money to help pay for fixing our streets, for doing all the other necessary things that are required. This code enforcement officer will collect more than probably 2 or 3 times his salary over the next year. It's really important that we have this. Also, it's important because the comprehensive plan requires us to have a full-time code enforcement officer. I'll give you an example. The other day, I was talking to Mr. Harhide, and we got a permit issued for $16,000. Last year, if we'd have had that same permit issued, we'd have gotten 20% of that amount because K2 would not 80%. So instead of getting the $16,000 on this one business that's opening up, would have got $3,500 because it's a huge difference. In the long run, like I said, this guy's going to pay for himself moreover than 2 or 3 times a year. So that's why we're doing it.
And plus, to add, I'm sure everyone else has seen it too. People have been responding and cleaning things up when he's asked.
Oh,
so.
just what, last month we had 100 letters go out. You know, the situation is starting to turn around for the better. We sent letters out, and we had people out there, banks were sending people out to cut the grass of the properties and such. You know, it's if we want to improve our city, we have to be competitive with what we offer to our employees. And right now, $57,000 is market value for this kind of individual. I don't like it, but it's necessary.
Is that market value for a city such as our size? Because the only reason I'm questioning, Todd's doing an excellent job, that's not the issue. I know when we first hired him, he was hired part-time. And then we switched to full-time, giving him $40,000. Now it's $17,000 more. And I hear you saying that he's gonna pay for himself, but if he stayed at the 40, and even if he didn't, we reposted that for 40, that's $17,000 to go to maybe get another street department guy. We are so short in our streets. And here we're gonna add a city clerk, which is $42,000, where, you know, we got accounts payable, we got city administrator, we have Marlene. If you took that 42 and that 17, you're looking at maybe 2 additional street guys. You know, so, you know, you gotta balance that out somewhere. You know, why couldn't we just open it up, you know, for another, somebody who didn't bid on it before or come for the job before might have came if they thought it was a $40,000 job, because we didn't bid it as that. We bid it as a part-time job. And so if we had put that back out there, you're leaving money on the table where we can maybe get a few more street guys. Our street guys are busting their butts and they need help out there, where we can maybe take that extra money and get a couple street guys.
Well, come in with 2 more, we'll see if we get it approved. Get 2 street guys added. That's what I want.
No, I'm just saying, well, we're spending money, but, you know, if we bid that out or post it again for another $40,000 for another code enforcer, what's to say we won't get one for $40,000 and that extra money can go towards a street guy?
I agree with you to an extent that we do need more street people. We absolutely do. So, as we've said before, you know, Todd has 16 certifications. We've never had a code officer that has been certified in nearly everything that he could be certified in. I think that this justifies that, because he can do all of these inspections that haven't been done, including fire inspections, which haven't been done.
I have nothing to say against his accreditation.
Yeah, I think it will, to echo Dawn, I think it will pay for itself, whereas someone with less certifications at a lower rate, they wouldn't be able to do the same.
But how do you know you wouldn't have gotten one at $40,000? We didn't start.
We didn't, but
right?
I think if someone has that level of certifications, I don't know.
We don't know. There might be someone retired but want to come back in and make $40,000. We just don't know because we didn't. I'm just putting it out there. You know, I just know we could use some help, extra help with the street guys. It's not against Todd. He's certified. He's doing a great job, but if you think about it, if we had posted at 40, who's to say we wouldn't have got somebody just as certified as Todd? Well, that leaves us that extra money to put towards the street and the parks where we can get some extra help, because we know they're way under the number of people they need. So I'm just throwing those ideas out to us. Those are things that we need to be looking at. That's all.
Tony, you were saying something? I didn't hear you.
Yes, thank you, and I'm sorry, Lois, if I interrupted you.
Oh, that's
I thought you were almost done there. My 2 things are, and again, it's nothing against him, nothing against the position, or nothing. When we were presented during the pre-interview with all the documentation, his certifications were great. They were also 15 years old. Are they current to 2020 standards?
I believe you brought that up when we hired him the first time, and they are current.
They're all current?
Yes.
All of them been renewed? He's taken all renewed tests?
He has. And I believe he also said that at the interview.
He's been doing Con Ed right along.
Those are like the original
That's the original issue dates.
Okay, that's fine, that's my question. The other question is the comment that was mentioned, and I don't know who said it, about, you know, the streets, permits, things like that. That I would not expect, nor do I want the code officer doing. That is not his job. That's our city engineer's job that works with the ABC Water and works with the sewage authority. That's Tony Vitale that has always done that and goes for them for paving and curb to curb and all that. That is not the code officer's job. He is to go around to see for grass, garbage, structures, and things like that. So I kind of tend to disagree that he's going to get money that way, because he has no business going after things like that. That's our city engineer's job.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I believe that you're in error there. The
city
city engineer is, I'm sorry, Tony, finish. Go ahead, Tony, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you didn't. I was done, Don, I'm sorry.
That's not true. The code enforcement officer's job to go around and look at the overall condition of the city. And there's been times in the recent past here when the engineer, which we pay at a greater rate, what did we pay the engineer last year?
Over $100,000.
$300,000. And, you know, the guy goes out there and he sees that these streets are being cut and stuff, and because that's his job to be seeing what's going on. The engineer is not contacted every time a utility comes into town and does something.
You didn't have a code guy.
Yeah, we didn't have a code guy, so we were using the engineer for a lot of things the code should have been doing. And it's a lot cheaper to go this route than it is to send the engineer out to make sure that the gas guys putting the anodes on the gas meters, on the gas lines, are actually paying for what's going on. They're paying for the opening of the street.
It's $135 an hour.
So you're telling me this gentleman's also a licensed engineer in the state of Pennsylvania?
Doesn't need to be one.
Well, I kind of want my city engineer to make those calls, not somebody that has a certificate. I'm not barking about the guy. What he does.
You're telling me you
City has no
need to be an
business
engineer to
saying-
tell when
shouldn't be
somebody's
saying
cutting the street.
So,
Shouldn't be doing cutting streets. That's Tony Vitel's job, and Tony will tell you that.
so what a lot of municipalities do is, because city engineers, you don't want to pay a city engineer to go around and monitor city streets, is your code enforcement officer will make sure the people who are cutting streets get permits. And if they come across people who are cutting or opening streets or whatnot, they'll make sure they file a permit. Or if they file a permit, they'll go and identify the location, verify the overall area that's going to be open, calculate the permit fee, and then make sure that is paid before any work starts. But with respect to evaluating any plans that are submitted or reviewing the work after the fact to make sure that it's compliant with the city's ordinance, that typically would be the responsibility of the city's engineer. But once again, the city code enforcement officer may be the initial first step, because oftentimes it is less costly for the code enforcement officer to identify when a street opening permit's needed and who needs to acquire it, and then to make sure that paperwork is completed and reviewed.
You're looking at $27 an hour versus $135 an hour. I think
And
I'd
I've seen
rather have
Tony
a guy.
Vitel go out there and go after the water company and understand what they tried to do and force them to go curb to curb and do things of that nature.
Well, they still have to
Tony's
file
in
a
town
permit
every day
though.
almost.
They'd still have to file a permit though, and that's something that the code enforcement officer should handle.
Well, that's the thing that Tony used to handle.
Because we didn't have a code enforcement officer that was certified to do that.
Well, he's still not going to be certified to do engineering work on a street.
Yes, he's not doing it.
No, but if we're collecting permits, then Tony Vitel knows, okay, I have these 4 that I need to go and check out.
Mr. Mayor, I make a
All right,
motion. I move it
do-
to go.
wait,
All right.
Your
What-
motion on the floor,
Yep.
it's been second.
Yeah, Dawn second. Okay. Call the roll.
Councilman Coles?
Aye.
Councilwoman Thomas?
Nay.
Councilman Orchakowski?
No.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Mayor Sherrod?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of repository property by Kareem G. Strawn and Waquan T. Martin, tax map number 20-02-06-0047, property address 1017 Knox Avenue in Monessen. Current property owner Jody Hill, amount of bid $838.38. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Questions? Call the roll.
Councilwoman Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Councilman Cole?
Yes.
Mayor Sherrod?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of repository property by Kareem G. Strong, tax map number 20-02-06-0248, property address 533 6th Street in Monessen. Current property owner Clifford Martin, amount of bid $728.22. Is there a second?
Second.
Question? Call the roll.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Councilman Cole?
Aye.
Councilwoman Thomas?
Yes.
Mayor Sherrod?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to transfer the following property to the redevelopment authority in order to sell it to Kareem G. Strawn, tax map number 2002060046, property address 1021 Knox Avenue. Current property owner is the city of Monessen. Amount of bid $500. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Question?
Tim?
Yes.
We can't put the bid amount in there because that's decided by the redevelopment authority, correct?
Yeah, I think that's just a note that the redevelopment authority has agreed to accept that amount as the bid for that property. Is that correct, Mr. Mosier?
Right, but I'm not sure it should be appropriate here. Yeah.
Well, it can, I mean, it can be noted, it can be noted in the city's action because it can be, the city's action can be conditioned on the redevelopment authority accepting a bid of that amount at least.
Well, if you're gonna transfer it to the redevelopment authority can sell it to whatever they feel. They can sell it to $1, they can sell it for $600.
Unless the city puts a condition that there has to be sold for at least a certain amount, which is what this motion would do.
Again, we're getting into things that the redevelopment authority has business in that we don't have business
Well, I mean, I can tell you, it's very common that if it's city property, the city to sell it to anybody else would typically put stipulations on that to make sure that the city's interest is protected in transferring the property to the redevelopment authority under the, auspices that it'll then be transferred for a redevelopment purpose.
I would leave that decision to Mr. Moser as he's representing the redevelopment authority, if he feels comfortable doing that.
Well, I'm the only one here from the redevelopment authority right now, and I don't have that authority, but personally, I don't have anything against it.
All right. Who seconded this?
I did.
Okay. Is there any other question? Call the roll.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Councilman Coles?
Aye.
Councilwoman Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mayor Sherrod?
Yes. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the transfer of the following property to the redevelopment authority in order for them to sell it to Kareem G. Strawn. Tax map number 2002060249, property address 539 6th Street. Current property owner is the city of Monessen, and again, the amount of bid $500. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Questions? Call the roll.
Councilman Gregor?
Aye.
Councilman Cole?
Aye.
Councilwoman Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Orchakowski?
Yes.
Mayor Sherrod?
Yes. Now, we have the following items for discussion. So many citizens have called about the trick-or-treat and asked whether we are holding it or not. So a proposed date here, and of course, council would have to make a decision next week, is October 31st, Saturday, from 4 to 6 p.m. Participants are being asked to follow CDC and PA Department of Health guidelines and remain as safe as possible. The reason for the earlier date is the police and several residents have concerns about the safety of the trick-or-treaters and also the safety of residents handing out candy in the dark. So that's why that time is proposed. So I don't know if anyone has any input or thoughts.
For the last 2 years, we did 6 to 8.
Correct.
That's what
So what's the problem?
Last year, we had a kid mugged up by Hilltop Fire Station. He was mugged and he was robbed of his candy in the dark. That's why, as a public safety director, I would urge council to approve the 4 to 6.
That's very unfortunate, but trick-or-treat is usually in the evening.
For the last 20 years, before 2 years ago, we had it at noon, I believe.
It's much safer daylight, not only for the
Did you check around
kids.
the other municipalities and boroughs?
I don't
No.
care what other municipalities and boroughs do. This has to do with the safety of the kids in Monessen, not in some other borough.
I believe the only other municipalities that I have seen, and I'm sure there are more, I know Brownsville's having trick-or-treating and Ross Draver's having trick-or-treating. I haven't seen anything about
Not
others.
not only that, too, you'll have more people participate because they won't feel threatened as much as they did last year and the year before. They left their doors locked. I'm talking about the senior citizens. I mean, these people wouldn't even do anything as far as trick-or-treat because they were scared. It's dark. Last year, what, was raining?
Yeah, it was.
You know,
The last 2 years. I think.
You're asking for an accident to happen in the dark. It just doesn't make any sense to do it in the dark. Not only that, like you said before, the last 2 years or the last 20-some years, it was done in the daylight.
And I think initially, like decades ago, it was in the night, and then I think something happened where someone got hit. And this was, of course, years ago, and I think that's why they initially put it in the daytime in the first place. And that's what I gathered from the police at least.
Is there anything we can put for like suggestions for trick or treating? Excuse me, I have to put this on my phone. That's so that when people are trick or treating, trying to still maintain the safety. I know wear a mask and things, but possibly one thing they might want to do is, you know, they can have their chair like on the middle of the porch, but have like a kettle with, you know, stuff in baggies so that they don't have to. Yeah, you can still be there. There's got to be ways that we can give them ideas of how to do this in a safe manner when you post it in the paper.
For sure. I think that's a good idea.
Just some kind of ideas to give to them of how to safely do it.
Did you see that one thing that guy came up with?
Yeah, shoot.
The skeleton.
Yeah.
I was just
He
going
took
to
a
say.
PCB
Right.
pipe, he's painted it, put decorations on it, and the kids could show up at the bottom of the porch, and you could slide the tree down into the back.
Just something,
Yeah. I was just going to
Very clever.
bring that up, yeah. And I'm sure there will be people that are reluctant to do it, and that's fine,
Right,
of course.
that's
We
right.
just want to give people the option if they feel comfortable doing it.
You should tell people if they're willing to receive trick-or-treaters, like to leave a light on,
Yeah.
porch light on.
Yeah. That's
That's the
usually the
norm.
case,
Yeah,
but
that's
we
the
should
norm.
reiterate that. All right, next, this is just a general announcement. The Mon Valley Opioid Coalition, which is based in part in Monessen, is holding a Narcan drive-through Wednesday, October 14th from 4 to 5:30 in the parking lot at St. Sebastian's Church in North Bell Vernon. So they'll be distributing Narcan to the community if they want to have it. Possibility of saving their life. What's that? Oh, yes, and our chief of police is the co-chair of the Mon Valley Opioid Coalition. So.
Aren't they doing like a small training too? of How to administer it? I think they are.
Yeah, is there?
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah. Here, I'll just read this letter so that everyone knows. Mon Valley Opioid Coalition is holding a Narcan drive-through event on October 14th from 4 to 5:30 p.m. in the parking lot of St. Sebastian's Church in North Bell Vernon. Volunteers will be on hand to provide a brief training on Narcan administration and supply Narcan nasal spray kits to community members who attend the event. Individuals will remain in their cars for both the training and distribution of the Narcan kits. We are requesting that you send an officer for representation of your police department to demonstrate support of this important initiative and provide a positive presence in the community. Attending officers will not be conducting the training or handing out the Narcan kits, but rather will just be present as an example of their support, which will also play a significant role in helping to reduce stigma. Since the restrictions with COVID-19 have caused local national night out events to be canceled, it is the coalition's hope that local police presence at the Narcan drive-thru will be another way for the police to show their commitment to being a positive influence and change agent in their local communities. If an officer from your police department is able to attend, please notify Brianne Minardi, Director of Clinical and Case Management Services at Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission, at bminardi@wedacinc.org by Friday, October 9th. Sincerely, Colleen Hughes, Co-Chair and Executive Director of Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission, and Chief Jim Smith, Co-Chair of City of Monessen Police Department. And so we'll have a flyer, if we don't already, up there on the bulletin board too. Next, we have a request. Pull up the flyer. We have a request. A resident, Dylan Shash, is wanting to do a blood drive at the Madison Civic Center on Thursday, November 12th, from 12:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. with the American Red Cross. So there's a draft of a flyer here that council has, and he's seeking approval for that event. And I think he emailed us. I didn't get to check my emails, but I think he emailed about, I asked him about COVID and how that would be handled, and he said that there would be protocol put in place, so I could forward that to everyone, because I'm sure that will be a concern for people.
Mayor, did he speak to the board down there?
He did not. He's approached council since it's a city building and it's not a recreation event. So he emailed John and I this morning about it.
Well, he needs to speak to them because they set the agenda down there.
Well, we will loop them in, but I believe this is a council decision since it's not a recreation event and since it's a city-owned building.
Again, that's what the rec authority is for.
They are not an authority, they're a board, and it's a city-owned building. So we can certainly keep them in the loop with this, but again, he's requesting that we approve it. Next, we have for public review the annual municipal separate storm sewer system MS4 status report from June 30th, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. This report is prepared by WEC Inc. on behalf of the City of Monessen for the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. It is up here. We killed a tree for this report, so if anyone would like to look at it, we have it here. We'll put it up on the code counter. Item E, zoning officer. Many, if not all, municipalities have the code enforcement officer also act as the zoning officer for the city. This is not to replace the zoning board, but I believe we haven't had a zoning officer in quite some time too. And Councilman Gregor, I don't know if you have anything on this as well?
No, not really.
Okay.
It's a necessary function.
Yeah, I believe it's in our ordinances too, I would think.
You're required to have a zoning officer. I believe currently K2 fills in as the zoning officer
Okay.
when there is a specific zoning issue.
We could save money by going this route.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very handy when you have somebody that's traveling the streets, if you see something going in somewhere where it shouldn't be, if they're aware of the zoning regulations in areas in the city. What's zoned for residential, commercial.
Yeah. And we'll get to, there's more on zoning, I think, later in this agenda, so we'll touch on that again. Item F, there's an internal city posting Monday, October 5th through Monday, October 12th for the position of city clerk. The city clerk position will have a salary of $32,000 annually, which was established.
What did you say?
I said $32. That is incorrect. 32,000 or 42,000. Sorry, $42,000 annually. Salary was previously established by council when we advertised the initial position. So I don't
Mayor?
know. What's that?
Question, please? When we talked about this before, this wasn't a union position. If you're posting it internally, are you making it a union position?
No.
No, it can't, the city clerk position can't be a union position because it's an appointed official position. It's more than just an employee position, so it would be excluded from the union.
So what's with the internal city posting then? There's no reason to have an internal city posting if you're going to advertise for it.
Well, we already did advertise for it initially.
But we
That was
pulled it
several
off
months
the
ago.
table.
What's that?
It got tabled.
No, it didn't.
That
It
is
didn't
not true.
pass.
Yes, it did. The advertisement passed, I think it was in July or June.
We had what,
But the
80 some
position
odd?
got tabled.
The advertising passed. We didn't do anything for the position.
That's
So
been
my
this-
question is what's with the internal city posting if it's not a union position?
Well, we're opening it up to see if anyone wants it. They realize it's not a union position, it's an at-will position.
That's been historically what the city's done in the past. This is not the first time this has ever happened in the city. The employees of the city always had first crack at the position. And it doesn't, if someone wants this position and they're willing to leave the union and they have experience, whatever, we should offer it to our employees first.
They didn't have that before? Didn't we post this before?
Not internally. We
I
just
mean, but they
advertised.
didn't have an option to,
No,
if it's, they're not allowed to bid on it once it's, apply for that if it's.
no one, this was not posted internally ever.
No, that's not my question. What, you
If it
understand what
was
I mean?
advertised, could they have applied?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, they could.
So they could have, that's what I was asking. So it was advertised, so they could have applied. That's what I'm asking.
No.
Could they?
They could have applied.
Yeah, you said
I
yes.
could have.
That's what
But
that's
it's-
what I mean. So they were open to apply. I find you re-advertising, but I mean, they were open to apply when it was posted out there before.
Yeah. And I can't remember, do you remember when we posted it initially? Was it July? It was a few months
It
ago.
was a ways far back.
Like when it was advertised, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was July. Item G, there are many vacant positions on city boards, authorities, and commissions, and that includes, at the end of the year, terms will be up. So we will have to compile a list of vacant board, authority, and commission appointments so that we can advertise for them, so that we have enough time between now and December to actually do the interviews, because if we get a lot of applicants for all of the boards, it's going to take a while. So we definitely want to make sure that we have enough time.
We don't have any list of the current members of these boards?
I believe John has a list. I don't know how up to date it is though. But yeah, we have to make sure that the list is
And
correct.
it's like a zoning board. I
There,
don't know anybody that's on it.
there is currently one person on the zoning board. There should be 3. And his term is up at the end of the year, and there is also no alternate and no solicitor for the zoning board. So after this person's term expires at the end of this year, there will be no people on the zoning board at all.
And there's one.
There's currently
Are
one.
we allowed to mention his name or her name?
I would assume I believe it's Sean
It's
Perry.
fine.
He's the one that's left.
Sean Perry's it.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
God bless him for trying.
Yeah. So the other 2, I'm assuming they just expired and no one was interested. So
Yeah, because they opened up the boards last year.
Yeah,
They just
I
didn't get
remember
any other
that,
applications.
so and then I know their solicitor resigned last year as well. So
Who was the previous solicitor?
Megan Kern.
So is that going to be an action item, or is that just a?
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and once we have a list of all of the boards that are going to have vacancies, so that we can advertise for it.
So there's going to be a motion to advertise?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I'd like to do. And again, to be eligible, applicants must meet the requirements of the resolution we passed last month, 11 of 2020, outlining rules and procedures for appointing board, authority, and commission members. That's the drug test and all of that stuff. So, and applying and actually doing more than just writing on a piece of paper, I would like to be on this board, because we've gotten that before. And I'd like people to put some effort into it if they're interested in these board positions. So, item H will be Resolution 16 of 2020, Addendum A, and it's a contract for professional services by and between the City of Monessen and Urban Design Ventures for preparation of a new zoning ordinance that is in compliance with the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Last month, the CDBG, there was a CDBG, can't remember if it was a resolution, where there was money from 2018. So this is for the zoning ordinance, which hasn't been done since 1974. So the zoning ordinance is entirely out of date. And I believe it's in the comp plan, which, obviously the comp plan, we haven't officially adopted it yet, but I'm sure I speak for everyone that we should try to keep going at it and doing the things in it. I believe John sent that to the planning commission for their review at this point. But, so there was some money left, I believe, in 2018 CDBG, and it was able to be applied for a zoning ordinance. I didn't know that was something that it could be applied for. So that's what that is for. Item I will be the final reading of Ordinance 9 of 2020, an ordinance of the Council for the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing compensation on a per-meeting basis and repealing Ordinance Number 1 of 2019 of the City of Monessen. We had the first reading last month of that one. Item J will be the final reading of Ordinance 11 of 2020, an ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing requirements for the registration of vacant, abandoned, and foreclosed real property within the City of Monessen, providing for regulations and enforcement, assessing fees, violations, and penalties, and establishing a blight fund. We also had the first reading of that one last month. And item K is the final reading of Ordinance 12 of 2020, an ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, providing for the creation of an environmental advisory board in and for the City of Monessen, establishing an authority and purpose, repealing inconsistent ordinances, and providing for an effective date. And that was at the recommendation of the city engineers, primarily to address the MS4 public participation component. And then we'll, of course, need to advertise for the board members for the Environmental Advisory Board as well. But I feel like for item L, we could just include that with all of the other advertisements for boards, authorities, and commissions. And then item M, first, now this is we would have the first reading, but this is basically a draft, so council, feel free to look at this, and if you have any input. This would be Ordinance 13 of 2020, an ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing certain rules, regulations, and procedures for declaring particular properties as nuisance properties within the City of Monessen, establishing procedures for issuing violations for nuisance properties, establishing penalties, enforcement regulations, and prosecution procedures, and providing for an effective date. So essentially, with this one, there are, in talking with the solicitor, there are across Pennsylvania nuisance property ordinances that are being challenged by the ACLU because they go after victims. This is not an ordinance like that. This is looking from like a property maintenance perspective. So if you have a structure property that has certain violations, more than 3 of what's spelled out in this ordinance, over the course of 120 days, it could be declared a nuisance property, and that would require the police chief and the code enforcement officer or department to sign off on that together based on what's in this ordinance. So again, this is essentially a draft, so I know you probably haven't read this, so take a look at it and just shoot me an email if there's anything that should be added, removed, concerning. I don't know, Tim, do you have anything to add to that? Did I touch on that well?
The crux here is that there's certain properties that if there are actual violations of various property maintenance codes, crime codes, or the crimes code, I'm sorry. Those specific things, they're actual violations, so they're not just calls for, police or fire services at those locations. Those are fine, because once again, you don't want to penalize people for having a legitimate request for emergency services, first responder services. But if at that property there are continual ongoing violations that are actually found for which people have been convicted, whether it's property maintenance or criminal offenses, whatever, that is what would rise to the level of being a nuisance property. And then the ordinance provides for certain steps to be available to the city to address those particular properties or those property owners.
And again, take a look at it. Let me know if anyone has anything. And then the same will go with this next ordinance. Again, a draft. This is would be next week, the first reading of Ordinance 14 of 2020, an ordinance of the City of Monessen, Westmoreland County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing certain rules and regulations regarding dogs, cats, and other domestic and non-domestic animals in the City of Monessen, rules and regulations regarding the keeping of dogs and cats in the city, rules and regulations of certain exotic animals, establishing penalties and enforcement regulations, and providing for an effective date. So our dog and cat ordinances were very outdated. Some of them dated back to the 60s. some weren't entirely humane. For example, the dog ordinance currently says if we capture a dog, we destroy it within 3 days. And obviously we don't do that, but that should not be in there. So we want to try to have the most humane way possible to handle this. Also, in here, some of this, I worked with Pittsburgh and Sharpsburg on what they've done recently. We already have on the books in Monessen for harming wild and non-domesticated birds, like that's already in there. But that's something that Pittsburgh and Sharpsburg had. Regulating the sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits, I believe that was already in our current ordinance. The use of wild and exotic animals for public entertainment, so like giraffes and elephants, like that's frowned upon at this point. And so that would be banned. I don't remember the last time we had a circus in town with elephants or anything of the sort. I don't even think that's done anymore. And then also having exotic animals as pets would be prohibited. You would be surprised, there were crocodiles in the city at some point, so I would not put it past anyone. I don't want a tiger roaming around. So just for your reference on the exotic animals in the definition, and if you think of anything else, feel free. So non-human primates like chimpanzees, lemurs, monkeys, cats, but not domesticated cats, so like tigers and all of that, bears, various dogs except domesticated dogs, elephants, dolphins, porpoises, whales. A lot of this is, you know, I highly doubt anyone's going to like have a whale in Monessen, but you never know. So, so this just like covers all of that. A lot of the, like the vicious dog section, I believe is the same as what we have on the books. Same with running at large. One of the things that was added in here to match what the state has done is for tethering of dogs, just putting out regulations about basically a non-choke collar, like the chain can't be super short, like basic things like that. The dog should have access to drinking water and edible food, like common sense things. Also, under keeping of dogs, and this was one of the things that I really want your input on. So right now, and also in this draft, it is unlawful for anyone to have more than 2 dogs. One of the provisions is if a female dog has a litter of pups, or for foster dogs. So I don't know, and you could think on this, you don't need to answer me now, but do we want to keep it at 2 dogs, or do we want to raise it? I've been torn on this. I know people out there that have more than 2 dogs. I'm torn in that, like, you know, a lot of these houses are close together and they don't have a lot of roaming space.
So you think you have to look at every situation differently and separately, because some people might have enough space to have 3 dogs, where they got a couple acres, and maybe, whereas you may not.
Right.
And it depends on whether they're disturbing your neighbors or, you know, things like that.
And I don't know, this is a question for Tim, like if we could put it kind of like what we did for the chicken ordinance based on like square footage. I feel like that would be hard to enforce though.
I'd have to look, but I think there's some case law out there about it being impermissible to have just a blanket minimum number of animals.
Okay. So we wouldn't even be
That's one of the things I want to take a look at with
Okay.
this ordinance.
Yeah, please
so.
do.
Yeah, someone.
And then of course,
I just have some questions about it. I just want to make sure that in the ordinance, it also kind of reiterates the law that you are not allowed to have your animal outside when it is above 91.
yeah, it's in here. That's actually
Okay.
the next section.
I really would like that reiterated, because
Yeah.
I would like to see humane officers, because there are people that keep dogs in crates year round. That's no life. Their life is better in a shelter. So in that instance, I don't think someone who thinks their dog should be outside in a crate should, or a fence, small fence, should be allowed more than 2 dogs, or 1, or any, really. And can we something about cats?
There is a whole section on cats.
Like, how many people are allowed to have in their house?
I don't, is that ever done? Is that something that you see?
Maximum number of cats, that would fall under the same thing for number of dogs.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So I mean, that's one thing I wanna take a look at.
Okay, yeah.
Because I know that there are cases out there about that.
And I think once again, that's gonna be a case by case. I know someone who probably she takes care of like 7 cats and they're treated better than people. I mean, they get tons of food, they live in a house in the garage and all their shots and all their vaccinations and she takes very good care of her animals. So, you got different situations there.
So then, like, my question is, so obviously, like, people probably call code enforcement on them and anyone with multiple dogs. So when code enforcement is responding, can that be something that they do? Like, okay, like, just assess the situation. Like, if she's taking great care of them, that's wonderful. Like, if I had 7 dogs, I promise you they would all have great care. So, like, make sure that they're up to date on vaccines. Like, that might be our way to make sure that animals are up to date on vaccines and have their rabies. Like, if the code enforcement is coming in to investigate the situation, you need to provide proof that they're up to date on their vaccines, that they have rabies, that they are registered.
And, I mean, if we can't do a minimum anyway, then that kind of makes it a moot point, and then we should, like, base it on a case by case. And just to reiterate also in this, to match the state law, it would be unlawful to have a dog outside below 32 degrees or above 90 degrees. Or if there's a period where there's severe weather, a severe weather warning issued for the county by the National Weather Service for a continuous period of time greater than 1/2 hour. Or again, if the temperature drops below 32 or above 90.
Thank you.
I don't know personally how people can do that. I think it's terrible. Also in here, this was pretty much the same. The vicious dog portion is pretty much what we have currently. And then there is a section for cats for vaccination against rabies being required. That's the same that's currently on the books now. Also about cats running at large, wearing of collars, and public nuisance. And in the public nuisance one, and this is another one that I think should look at more closely, I'm going to read it as it is in the draft. And again, council takes some time to think through this, but it says, when from time to time council determines that the presence of cats running at large in the city warrants action by the animal control officer, council and or the code enforcement department may determine said cats to be a public nuisance. Council may enter into an agreement with the city's animal control officer or other duly qualified individual or entity to capture cats running at large, consistent with the provisions of this article. The animal control officer shall be empowered to capture, take custody of, and find a humane solution for cats running at large in a manner consistent with the provisions of this article. Such humane solutions include trap, neuter, and release, and other recommendations as laid out by the Humane Society. If such cat is so delivered to the owner shall pay a fee of $50 to the city within 5 days of delivery. Failure to pay said fee shall constitute a separate violation of this section. So that whole thing is the same except as it stands now, except it was left very vague. It just said a humane solution, and it just left it at that, and it was very vague. It didn't really spell out what is humane. So I did add the trap, neuter, release in there. I found some stuff from the Humane Society website on that too, if anyone wants to look at it. And then also there's a provision, this is the same as what's on the books, about cats injuring or destroying property of others. Also unlawful for people to poison or injure cats. The duty to place cat under observation, that's all the same. Cats running at large is all the same. The capture fee with the Humane Society is the same. Animal control officer, that's the same, that council may contract and hire an animal control officer. And the interference with the capture of cats, that section is also the same.
Do they have the poisoning or injuring dogs? People poison dogs.
Oh, we could
I'm
definitely.
just glancing real
I
quick, and
wanna
I
s-
didn't see that in
I
it.
want to say it's in here, but
Okay, because I was just
could be
looking at the
wrong.
headings, and I
Yeah.
didn't see that where the dogs were.
Let me make a note, because, yeah, maybe we should
Yeah,
reiterate
because
that.
they do the same thing with dogs.
Yeah, good point. Also, there is a section, I missed it, under dogs. So, section 4, removing of excrement. So right now, our code says, and we get so many complaints about this. So right now, our code says that no owner, custodian, or keeper of any dog shall allow or permit such dog to deposit excrement upon the streets, alleys, or public grounds of the city, unless such owner, custodian, or keeper immediately removes the excrement and disposes of it in a sanitary manner. So right now, it says you have to do it, but it doesn't say what happens if you don't do it. So in this ordinance, we will add a $100 fine for anyone that is caught not picking up after their dog, because that is a public health risk. If council wants to make that fine higher or lower, let me know. But I know we had a back and forth conversation on email about this, because we've gotten several complaints.
Is it an option to have, like if you go to, like a lot of cities or towns, they have like the garbage can with the dog's waste bags attached? Is that like, I know where I walk my dog,
Like
there's
with
a
the
sign.
bags?
Yeah, that lets you know, and I mean, I carry my bags, but there's been several times that I'm in City Park and I see someone that doesn't have bags, and then I give them one, because I don't want my dog laying, you know, so.
I mean, that's definitely something that we could talk about. I mean, I wouldn't think they'd be that
So when they
expensive.
gonna
You know what
use
she
it?
means, right?
I know, yeah, they have
Because
no
we have a
idea.
sign, we have those signs up there right now, but then I guess if we establish a fine to it, we're gonna have to put new signs up
Yeah.
anyway, because there's nothing on
Yeah,
them.
it doesn't say anything about fine.
So we could attach a sign to the bag
$100
dispenser.
fine.
Yeah,
Just,
I'm-
just that's like the excuse, like, oh, I didn't have.
yeah.
Do you
And
know you're
that's-
walking your dog, take it back.
Yeah, and it's disgusting, and it's a public health issue too, and especially if you have kids playing and people walking around and.
What about park workers?
Yeah, what, park workers walking around
Yeah.
too, yeah. Yeah, because I mean, someone has to clean it up at some point, and so it's just disgusting.
Excuse me, does that apply to private
No.
owners?
We can't, we could only regulate public property. I mean,
But
that would
isn't it-
probably be a
but that's a
property
code
maintenance.
enforcement
Yeah, that
thing,
would be a
right,
property
that's a code
maintenance. It
enforcement
would
thing.
be
Yeah,
a
if
property
there's,
maintenance issue, I
if it's
suppose.
stinking, they can call the code enforcer to come up to the house.
Yeah, you were talking about that, John, a little
I'm
earlier.
not talking about smelling, I'm just talking about letting their dog roam the neighborhood.
Oh, you're talking about.
Oh,
that.
that's
In
running,
anybody's yard.
yeah, that's running at large. They should not be doing that.
They're responsible for cleaning it up in their yard too, cause
Yeah.
I lived next to, when I lived in Denora, I lived next to someone,
All
and
you
they never cleaned up
Yeah.
their dog waste,
All
and
you
yeah.
gotta do is put down let us know what the home address is, and we'll
Right.
find them.
Oh, why don't you just come visit me one day?
You get a plate, write the plate number down, submit
I
it,
got no, I got a
send
whole,
them a
Oh,
I
yeah.
got a whole 30 minutes of it.
So that was a quick run through, but I wrote down Lois's idea about poisoning of dogs as well, just to reiterate that. So if anyone, after you look through it, if anyone sees anything that was missed or is weird, and then the solicitor will see about that minimum, or how we can address that if we need to change that. Item O, a discussion regarding the Monessen Public Library. The library director informed the city administrator last month that there has been extensive water damage in the library. And there's like spots with the drywall and such. Slagle Roofing was called in to check the roof and make all necessary repairs. Just like the Hilltop Fire Station, the library has sustained internal damage because of neglect to make annual checks of city buildings. And we have photos. From the photos, it seems there were a lot of like holes and cracks and pieces on the roof lifting. It's a rubber roof, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and these flat roofs are a pain to take care of. I think the one picture is upside down, but that's the city road.
What we need to do here,
We will set up.
you need to set up a program where there's an inspection every year.
Yeah,
maybe even twice a year, because you could avoid thousands of dollars worth of damage by being proactive and taking care of these issues. I don't know the last time anybody was on the roofs of some of these buildings.
Yeah, you're right.
2013.
And, you know,
No, they had to be up there because we had a meeting a couple of times, like either a month or so ago. They did have work done on their air conditioners. So they had to be up. This may when they found this out, I don't know, but they had a lot of work, extensive
They
work
just-
done on their air conditioners and
This was
getting
found
apart.
out recently.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying. They may have found out after they just had a part replaced on their air conditioning units because they were on the roof
Yeah, well-
and on the other units.
Yeah.
This damage, this wear and tear is obvious, it's been happening for
Right, I'm
years.
just saying, that's probably when they found out about it.
Yeah, but the thing is, if we send somebody up there from the city, whether it's a code guy or whatever, to look at the city properties, to inspect them once or twice a year, you can avoid a lot of this damage.
Because they caught this early evidently, because if they didn't, 6:51,
Yeah.
they caught it.
Well, I know, about a year or so ago, there was, starting like, you know, like between the drywall, like how you tape it, like some of the tape was like coming loose in the children's area. And I thought like, well, maybe it's from like an air conditioner, like condensation, and that's what everyone assumed, but apparently it had something to do with this. So,
Yeah, well, this
We
damage
will-
has been happening for a while, that didn't open.
yeah, and I doubt that if the insurance company didn't approve of Hilltop's repairs interior, I don't think they will approve of this either. But it's good that, so they sealed everything up, right? So,
Yes.
it's good that it was caught before winter too. And then, the same thing with the city garage, Slagle Roofing found a water leak on the city garage as well, and those photos are attached.
I believe that was reported by the city crew that water was coming in the building.
Do we know how old the roof is on the city garage? I mean, I'm sure it's not.
I don't know how old it was, but it's in good shape.
Well, that's good.
It's only, the only thing, the problem is it's pulling away from the parapet,
Mhm.
and when that happens, it will break the neck seal and it will just keep coming apart. So we got the first one, and that fortunately it leaked and we saw it.
And you gotta keep someone.
So there's nothing else with the city garage roof?
No.
Also, it's not on here, but I could show anyone that wants it, it's in everyone's packets. I took the amounts I got from Cheryl for 2019, August 2019 and August 2020, to do a comparison to see where we're at with major fund balances. So I'm just going to read down the list, and if anyone wants to look at this, there's a chart and stuff. So August 2019, the general fund was $340,690.77. In August 2020, it was $737,429.27. Debt service in August 2019 was $70,084.25. Debt service in August 2020 is $409,362.55. In August 2019, line usage was $93,238.67. In August 2020, it was $20,542.60. In August 2019, liquid fuels was $165,282.13. And in August 2020, it was $101,524.49. In August 2019, Parks and Recreation, $230,494.95. August 2020, $153,504.92. The total of those funds in August 2019 was $899,790.77. In August 2020, it was $1,422,363.83. So the city in those major funds saw an increase of 58.08%. I just got the balances from Cheryl for September, and then council will get them as well. I'm gonna make a chart for that as well, for next week. I haven't looked at them yet. So, I just wanted to, put this out so everyone could see it and compare. Just of note, I believe line usage, is lower this year than last year. We had that, major repair that we had to do at the beginning of the year on the, sewer line at the mill. So that ate a significant chunk away from that. So, I think, did you leave those on the table as well?
Yeah, we could, yeah.
Okay, so
Put them up for everybody to put them
if you
up.
didn't get one there, by the door. Okay. I'd like to open the floor to public comment, general public comment. if
I just
anyone
like
has
to have
anything.
one comment underneath that,
Uh-huh.
that you were talking about there.
Yeah.
I just want to let the public know that we have caught up with the municipal minimum
Oh, yes.
obligation as far as the lease pension fund. When we came into office, we had a deficit there of $225,000. We have managed to pay that off this year, and we're going to get started on next year's.
I believe we already started on the current one as well.
That I'm not aware.
10,000.
Towards the current one.
So we're $500,000 better this year at this time in inventory at the bank. We have $500,000. We will make it very easy to the end of the year. We will start paying down the other debts we had from last year. And I would say we probably will not go after a tax anticipation note next year. Won't need it. Just manage properly.
You have been paying down though on the garbage fees,
Garbage fees and the healthcare.
the healthcare that was owed.
Yes. We're still a few months, but
You're paying it off on a monthly basis.
it's going to take 2 years to pay down. When you have $190,000 on both accounts unpaid, it's very difficult to pay pay a third of the year down in 1 year. So the plan is we'll pay half of it down before the end of this year, the other half before the June next year. We should be in pretty fair shape. We have to make sure we keep the cash flow going, and we'll be okay. We bought all the machinery that we need now, this year. We finished paying just this week the trucks that were bought in 2015. We paid final debt for that. We will probably go out for a fleet of trucks, 4 or 5 next year. We get the trucks, we won't have to pay for them until the following year. Then liquid fuels will come into effect and take care of that. So it's all in how you plan and add your money, manage your money.
In the long term.
And we have enough equipment. We need 2 more employees in the streets. Actually, right now, those 2 employees, if we get them, will pay for themselves just by doing the inlets around the city. You're paying $4,000 to $5,000 in many instances, where we should be paying $300 to $400.
And how many inlets are there in the city?
3,450 inlets in the city. If you average 2 a day, times 220 working days, you got 400, you have 8 years of continuous work. And then when you can't do it, you move them over to trucks and other things that you have in the city. But those 2 salaries can easily be paid for themselves.
You're talking about line usage fees.
Yeah, well, line usage and we're CDBG. CDBG, you're paying, when you pay an outside contractor under CDBG, many times you have to pay the going rate of $40-some an hour, where you have an employee doing it at $23, $25 an hour. So So just the fact of the change of that difference, they will pay for themselves. You can't afford not to put two of them on. So when council's ready, I could show them, I'll show them the figures. It's so simple. And then we have options with these new employees coming on. Not younger or older, that we bring in new employees and they start to learn from the older employees because you have retirements coming. 1 or 2 retirees, we should have 2 people filling positions. And you have to manage it that way, it just doesn't happen. So whenever they're ready, and you can see by the amount of money in the general fund, the monies are there. The reason why the other funds are down lower, and that's the way you manage them, they're required to be used at certain places and times. Cannot be crossed. The general fund, you can spend anywhere. So that's what you leave an option when you're managing the money and the operations. So yes, we have 3 more employees that are required, really need. And 2 of them right now will pay for themselves, just as the code enforcement officer. You know, in 2.5 months, he brought in $48,000. $48,000.
About $49,000.
So if you want to take that and build that to 6 times or 5 times a month, you're right. He's going to pay for 2.5 salaries in the city, not hit tax dollars at all.
And also be addressing the code issues that are out there.
And another question for you, since this is a work session. What is the status of our comprehensive plan? Where's that at?
I believe John gave it to the planning commission.
Yeah, I only have one person to contact on a planning commission, and I have to give it to 2 others. Then what will happen is, the planning commission, the 3, if we have 3,
I think there are 4.
they have to look over, and once they have it, they have to hold a public hearing for to go over the report. Also, in addition, a draft is sent to the Greensburg for Brian Lawrence to go over it. They have 45 days to come back and say if they agree with the plan or disagree or what some changes, because they had input into the program as they went along.
Okay, we got the draft from Mackin. Do we have a final version?
No, we won't get that until they approve, because there's $10,000 due them. And they want to, once the county comes in and approves it, then they'll set up we'll have to set up a meeting. They can come in and present it to the public.
Okay.
Okay? I have a draft in June, and we just got a new draft in September. So
My final question for you, what is the status of our website? Are they due for a launch?
Yeah, so I talked to them at the end of last week. They're finalizing with all of the links on there to make sure everything is up and running. So I'm expecting late this week, early next week. So hopefully by next council meeting, the website should be up and running.
we have so much to put on there that we get credit for under different programs.
Yeah,
For
like
the MS4,
CDBG.
that has to be put onto the program, and we get credit for that in fair housing, waterways, and what we're doing for environmental education to the public. That all comes when you put that on the website.
Also, again, I just thought of this. So I was looking, because one of the things that goes on the website is the codified ordinances from general code. So the city has not codified their ordinances since 2015. So the public would have no way of knowing what ordinances have been passed from 2015 to present. So I submitted all of our ordinances from 2016 onward to them for them to give us an estimate on cost, on how much it would cost to codify and update it.
I just got that.
Oh, did you?
Yes, it's $9,800 in change to do the codifications.
Yeah, that's 4 years worth of ordinances, so.
And with that, that'll be based on how many books we get available to us, and
And we have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if, you know, a lot of you come to every meeting, so you see what ordinances get adopted through the years, but the average person, if they want to know what the dog ordinance says and it's not updated, they're going to be looking at an old, outdated ordinance, and they're not going to know. So we should try to update it as much as possible, but having it be backdated 5 years, that's entirely too long, so.
There is a provision in the third-class city code that actually requires all ordinances be recodified each year.
That makes sense.
Now, I'm not saying,
Yeah.
just because Monessen hasn't done that you're any different from any other third-class city, because they're all behind, but.
all the mandates
But
with
it
no money.
does.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Right.
is in the third-class city code, so.
Well, I think the thing is, we do have the finances now, and we can do it, and we may as well do it and bring everything up to date, just as well as our computers are all up to date now. Everything we have is really up, we've brought it up to date.
Did anyone have anything public?
I just want to say, Kareem Strong, 470 Don Avenue. I just want to thank the council for approving the sale of the properties to me, and I want to say that I hope to have a friendly working relationship going forward with you guys.
And we hope that you're successful. Let us know if you need something, please. All right. I make a motion to adjourn at 8:45.